The views and opinions in the following program are those of the hosts and guests and do not reflect those of Ernest Smith or Ernest Smith Productions. This is ESP TV.
Good evening and welcome to ESP TV. My name is Karen Bryson, and tonight we're going to discuss shootings, guns, and race. I know that's a lot to cover, but my special guest who has been here several times before, and I want you to help me welcome, is attorney Amina Matheny-Willard. She is a criminal defense attorney with over 20 years experience. She has two sons, and since they are black, they factor into this as well, regardless of where they are, because anything at any time can also happen to them. Amina has worked in the trenches with victims and the accused, as well as the families of the victims and accused, and she's gained knowledge and worked effectively within the criminal justice system to help prevent a lot of the negative things that are associated with black people and the courts, or should I say minorities and the courts. She also ran for a Norfolk Commonwealth attorney, and while she did not win that particular seat, it's our loss because this woman is a barracuda. You want her on your side. You want her fighting for you in the trenches. She would be my ride or die who I would turn to.
Thank you.
Amina, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me. I enjoy being here.
Of course you do. Where else would you be except for at ESP TV? Let me start with some of the statistics that I was able to garner today. There have been at least 52 school shootings in the last 10 years, 1,322 individual shootings since the 70s, resulting in 426 deaths and 1,225 injuries. The biggest state, should I say, that has the most impact on shootings is California with 214. Texas has had 175 shootings, Florida 120, Illinois 110, and would you believe Pennsylvania with 88. There have been 118 shootings alone in 2018 and 251 in 2021. I mean, what is this world coming to?
Yeah, it's really sad. It's really sad, especially when a lot of these shootings are at schools.
Exactly.
Where our young people are.
Why do you think that is? I'm basically my own opinion, my own humble opinion, is that it really became worse when 45 was in office and he advocated for more violence, more guns, you know, let's take our country back, really.
I agree.
So elaborate on that for me.
Well, I can tell you that when 45 was president, so as you noted, both of my sons are obviously African American. The last year that 45 was president was the first year that my youngest son was ever called a racial slur.
Oh my! So
that was devastating. But again, I think what he does is, you know, he before what I say is before you know, people had on their masks and now they take them off, and you know, he's emboldened people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the non-black race seems to think that they're entitled to act the way they are,
right?
Because there's not going to be any consequences or retaliation. But just like a lot of officers are being shot randomly, the way our people were just randomly selected and tortured and killed and whatever else, now it's really in their face, and we've lost a lot of people. I'm given to understand, even in Norfolk, the police force, they don't want to join, regardless of what they're offering them.
Right.
So, what do you think in terms of the school shootings needs to be done at this point? Because we have the electronic figures for metal detectors in the schools. Some have, I guess, in the minority sections or the lower class sections of schools, they have officers in there. But it doesn't seem to be helping because these things are still happening more and more. So what else can be done?
Well, I think there should be more focus on mental health and making sure that students have a healthy outlet if they have any problems. I think mental health has been demonized, so when someone has a problem or they have feelings of either suicide or homicide, they don't want to discuss them. I think parents should be more like, look in your kid's room, like do a search once a week, and find out what your kids are doing. But I think a lot has to do with mental health. I am not particularly thrilled about school resource officers being in schools because overall, my opinion is that they contribute to the school to prison pipeline in the black communities. So I think it would be better for mental health professionals to be there. And as far as like I said, as far as the mass shootings, I think a lot of it is where kids they've been bullied and they've just had enough. So a lot of that goes to the mental health issues.
I agree, and that may well be part of it, but there are a lot of anger issues in a lot of these students, and from what I read, trying to get some of my facts together so that I can speak intelligently on this subject, a lot of it came from disassociation with schools and the fact that a lot of these shooters were either students there or former students. But it's hard to understand how someone can go, if you have an issue with a person, especially with the bullying and things, and now we're trying to take charge of that and bring that to the forefront, how you can go into a school and just shoot randomly all the collateral damage of young kids. And now no one really wants to have their children in school, even though they have to have them there. Parents don't want them at home. They saw what that was like for 2 years, didn't they? But they had those children, so.
Yeah.
I honestly don't understand because at this point, let's bring up Columbine. That massacre with the young guy, and we were talking about mental health issues. His mother knew he had a gun, right? Didn't she buy the gun for him? Do you recall that?
I do not recall I know it was tragic. I don't recall all of the details.
Okay, and that's Columbine on the screen right there. Also in 2012, Sandy Hook Elementary, where 26 children and staff were shot.
That was an elementary school.
Yes, that was Sandy Hook Elementary School. Look at those babies. How can you even tell their parents? There's nothing that can bring them back. There's no solace you can, cover them with, and there's nothing you can say. And I'm sorry is just not getting it anymore. When are we going to get past I'm sorry and the powers that be, the government officials that we have elected, when are they going to actually do something?
It's it's a sad thing because they're talking about gun control, and every time there's a mass shooting, they say, okay, well, we need gun control or gun reform, but there are already so many guns in this country that it's kind of hard to get a grasp on how to solve the problem. So it's a tough
gun laws.
question.
We're the only country where all this is happening randomly every single day. No other country, they have violence or whatever in other countries, but not like here.
Right.
It's like the Wild West all over again.
It is sad.
The last school was Robb Elementary here recently, where 19 children and 2 adults were just shot randomly. I'm speaking specifically about Robb Elementary because it's concerning to me, because out of all of the other mass shootings with shooters getting their notoriety, whatever issues they had on the news or whatever else, the shooter for this particular one was either Hispanic or Mexican or a person of minority color. And he's the only one that has been shot and killed out of all those other incidences. How do you feel about that?
Well, that goes back, in my opinion, to the tradition of this country. The police department does not seem to care about people of color. You know, one of the shooters they took to Burger King to get, to get something to eat. And even though we're talking about the mass shootings, it carries over onto the Capitol riot.
Right.
The way the officers treated those people, as compared to the way they were treating just the summer before the Black Lives Matter protesters. So it's just this hostility towards African Americans, towards people of color, and it's something that, unfortunately, the way this country has been, you have a country that was entrenched in slavery, and then all of a sudden, there's no slavery. But there's still this hostility. You have to remember how this country, how the people in this country were brought up, and you just don't get rid of that overnight.
There's still slavery. They're warehousing black men and boys in the prison system.
Yes, the prison system is a substitution for slavery.
Yes, and inordinate amounts for even minor offenses, giving extorted, horrible sentences. Yes,
right, to people of color. Yep, that's the substitution right now. So the prison system are, like I said, is once they got rid of slavery, they were like, well, we still have this. This country still has the same mentality of making money off of the backs of blacks, and they do with the commissary. They're in the prisons making products to be sold in the market. So they're still, this country, it just won't let go. So that's unfortunately a theme that runs throughout the policing, the criminal justice system, employment, housing, every area of this country.
I agree. I don't understand why things aren't happening a lot sooner. As soon as someone is aware, you always hear, you see something, say something, but a lot of the people that are in distress, that are about to do something egregious against, a group of people, they're putting it on mass media. They're letting other people know that, this is how they feel, this is what they're going to do, this is what they want to do, but no one seems to either want to believe them or to say something or get involved. So that seems to be an issue as well. What do you think?
Well, I think so. I don't know how off topic this is, but when you were saying that, it reminded me of a skit by Bill Burr. Bill Burr is a white comedian, and what he said was he was like cleaning up his house one day, and someone on television said it was talking erratic, like they hate everybody, and he looked and it was Kanye West. And he was like, "Oh, there's nothing to worry about." And his thing, basically, the idea is that they don't, if you are a white person and you have all these ideas of mass destruction, you are more likely going to be able to get away with it because you're not as watched or as guarded. Like if you're on your way to the store or to a school with a gun and you're black, you're probably just going to be accosted by the police.
Yes, constantly.
But it's easier for white people to get away with that because they're not, when the police see a white person with a gun walking towards a school, it's like, do you know what I mean? So his what he was saying was because the ideas were coming from a black man, it's like, it's not a big deal. But, it's just, it's harder, obviously. I mean, I guess it's more like white privilege that they can put
Right.
these things on the internet and social media and go to school with a gun, and they're not going to just randomly get searched. So I think it's easier to get away with a mass shooting if you are white versus a person of color.
Absolutely. And time again, it's been shown that this is how it's going to be, and that's how it's going to be accepted. And it's very rare, it seems like, that a non-person of color is brought to task for something unless the media and the populace really get behind it and keep pushing and pushing, which
Right.
is sad. Why do
Right.
we have to do that? Our lives matter just as much as anyone else's, and we're not saying we matter anymore, but our lives matter too.
Right.
Treat us with some
Right.
respect and dignity.
I agree.
Something else that sort of is concerning to me is the fact that goes back to when I said earlier, when is I'm sorry going to be enough that you tell the parents and teachers and whoever else? Because you go and someone dies and you put flowers or a candle or a little stuffed animal at the place where they
They passed. Yeah.
what is that doing? These people still have to live. The
Right.
families are still grieving. They still need money to help with the resources to help bury these people and have services or whatever.
Right.
The stuffed animals, okay, to me, it's like, okay, you're appeasing yourself. Okay, I'm doing something, either to get on camera
Right.
or to say, okay, I did this and I feel a little better because I put something out there. That's not helping anything.
It's not, and I think it's like I said, it's difficult to just get a grasp of what's going on because there are so many guns. People a lot of people just don't want to get involved. So if someone puts something out on social media, someone might read it and they may, I don't want to get involved. So it's just, I think we probably just need to change the way we think about things and kind of look at our community more of like a village and less of like individuals. Like we all need to kind of jump in and step in and say something.
Well, hasn't
when we
that been
see
said
something.
over and over?
Yeah, I don't think people do it. People are like, it's not my business. I'm not gonna, get involved. So I think people say if you see something, say something, but that is not. I think that's clearly not what's going on.
So basically, with all of these repeat shootings, America really hasn't learned anything.
No, and then they, tout the Second Amendment, which everyone agrees with the Second Amendment, but you don't need automatic weapons. You can carry a weapon that's not going to kill multiple people within 5 seconds. So,
Why do we need so many guns other than, and I hate to say it because I really am not a fan of our police force. I know someone told me it's maybe about 2% that makes the rest of them look bad. I think that number's higher than that, and that's sad because they're the ones that are getting all the attention when the rest of you all need to step up. And I know that brotherhood thing where, you all have to stick together because you're all blue.
yeah,
But right is right and wrong is wrong.
right. I agree.
So until they make a difference and change and work with the communities, as you said once when you were here on another segment, nothing is going to change. And since we're not in the old Wild West, we don't have to go hunt our food unless you're really doing this for hate reasons. No one needs all these guns.
Right. I agree.
And I think the government needs to crack down on that and do something, but they're so afraid. Why can't just like any other amendment can be made or legislation can be changed, why can't they ratify the Second Amendment so that it's safer for everyone as opposed to, we can't destroy their rights. The Founding Fathers came up with this. That's bullshit.
Yeah, well,
I'm sorry, but that's what it is.
Well, so the Second Amendment just gives a right to bear arms. The government can restrict what kind of arms people bear or carry. So the way it's written, the government has the power that it needs in order to restrict them. The government just won't do it.
Why?
The NRA, all the lobbyists, all the gun lobbyists going to Congress saying don't get rid of. Yes, it's a money thing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So the way it's just the way the laws are being used right now. But it's the Congress and the legislator and the states can do what they need to do to make sure these semi-automatic weapons are off the streets, even with the Second Amendment. It doesn't say you have the right to bear every single possible arm that you can. It just says arms. So the government, for public safety reasons, can restrict that. They just don't want to.
So what do we need to do to push them to make this be more prevalent and in their face constantly so that they will have to do something at this point? I mean, they're so worried about a woman's body, giving us the choice for life or death,
Right.
So why can't they do something about this and get off of that for a moment and handle this, because this is more important? Well, our bodies are important too, but at the moment, this is more important. Right.
And I think, unfortunately, you have people in Congress that have had, like, say you have a congressperson whose son got killed by a drunk driver.
Okay.
That person will push DUI rights.
Yes.
So it's almost like you have to have somebody in Congress
something happen to them and their families,
right,
or whatever,
for them to take it more seriously. So that's not a good thing. Obviously, I don't wish any bad thing on anyone.
Right.
But that's usually where the passion comes from, when it's actually, something that you can relate to, or, elect people that are passionate about these things and that can relate. So, just exercise your voting rights and vote people in office.
But even when you do that, these elected officials, they're so passionate about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to change this, I'm going to, institute this. They get in office and it's like, okay, when?
Right.
4 years you'll be out. When? When is it going to happen?
Right, I agree.
You tell these lies to get there and have us vote for you, but what are you doing? We're paying your salaries. We put you in office. Do something. We are tired of it. Not just people of color. Everybody is just sick and tired of the status quo.
Right.
When is it going to change? When? When everybody's, polluted and dead and gone, and what's left? Nothing. The earth.
Right. I agree.
I'm just angry about so many things. I'm sorry. I really am, because this is getting ridiculous.
It is. It is.
It is beyond ridiculous, and especially these babies in these elementary schools and, even the children in the high schools. They're afraid. They really are. They're having, PTSD and all kind of other issues, and, no, I don't want to go, something's going to happen, but yet I still want to go. Why can't we go to games? Why can't we stop wearing masks? So they don't understand the ramifications behind what the adults are doing, because we're saying, because I said so type attitude, basically.
Right.
And nothing is changing. What are we leaving them?
It's really sad. It seems like the violence is getting worse. The guns are getting worse. Racism is getting worse.
Yes.
It's almost like, we're going backwards, and we're not
Since
progressing
45.
as a. Yeah, right. We're not progressing as a country. So yes, he did a great deal of damage.
And if he gets in office again, because God love him, I'm from Delaware, but if Biden doesn't get up off his hiney and do something more radical and put his foot down to make some changes, 45 will sneak under the carpet there and get back in, and we don't want that. I mean, he has caused so much dissension among the people, not Biden. I'm talking about 45. Let's get this straight. And people are believing him, and he doesn't care about anybody but himself.
Absolutely. And I think, the sad thing is you have to see that. I think people see that.
Don't.
But
even I have some friends
don't
that
care.
are still
Do they not
staunch.
see it?
Like, he's done so much. It's like, let's just agree to disagree. I don't even want to get on this conversation with you because it's going to end our friendship. That's your belief. It's just frustrating. How can they not see it? How can they not? But we're all allowed to have our beliefs, just like with religion. You may not agree with mine, I may not agree with yours, but allow me my, what I believe in, and don't, as long as I'm not disrupting you,
Right.
and I'll allow you yours.
Right.
At this point, I think if we go back to having the children go back home again, it's still going to cause financial difficulties.
Right.
The schools are going to, miss out, especially teachers and everything. It's going to cause an issue with families as far as the ones that aren't staying behind their children to make sure they're online, getting the information they need, doing their homework, turning it in, they're probably 2 years behind now, and the teachers are just passing them through.
Yes, I agree. I think, you know, there was in Norfolk, when the Chromebooks came out, there were a lot of Chromebooks that weren't working. Some people didn't have Chromebooks, so yeah, a lot of them are definitely 2 years behind because of having to go online and work from home, or not work from home, but have school at home.
Yes, which means the parents either have to, you know, you stay home today, I'll stay home tomorrow, or leaving the older ones, which aren't much older than the younger ones, in charge to make sure they're eating and doing, because, you know, especially people of color that, you know, blue collar, they have to get out and go to work.
2 or 3 jobs. Yeah.
Yes. It's sad.
It is.
Do you think that gun control and policing within, I don't even know if I'm saying it correctly, that it should be policing, the various things that go on within each school system or district within a state, should they govern themselves and deal with this? Or do you think this ought to be across the board, the whole United States dealing with this, like, you know, trying to get things under control?
Well, I think there should be some uniformity in some areas. It just, you know, each district is different. So I think the schools should have a lot of discretion in terms of how they want to handle certain things. But just like a curriculum, you know, throughout the country, everybody first grade through 12th grade. But the curriculum might be different, or the school day might be different. I was watching the news, and there's like a 4-day school day for a school. They start on Tuesday.
7 days a week.
They start on Tuesday. They said they were getting better results, but yeah, some things should be uniform, and others, you know, should be in individual schools.
Has anyone mentioned, or you never hear it on the news, the past shootings? What has happened to those people that were involved in that? Are they still in jail? Are they eligible for parole?
You know,
what's going on
the
with
news
them?
does not do a good job of following up. I think
they have no business following up on what they write on. My goodness.
Right. They don't ever go back and say, okay, this person got this many years for the school shooting, or, you know, they don't. I think once it's out of the news, and they determine the news, so it's kind of like
their narrative.
Yeah, so they're like, well, we're not talking about it anymore, so nobody cares, but that's not true. But yeah, a lot of news stations do not follow up, and I think that's something that needs to be done.
I think it also needs to be brought to the forefront that you never see minorities doing this kind of nonsense, going in, shooting up, you know, the schools or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, you know, but it's just, yeah, and I don't know what that's about. Like, I don't know, but it's true. The mass shooters are generally white males.
White teenagers, young boys, and men. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And it's sad that it's not just schools at this point. You're afraid to go anywhere, to church, to concerts, Walmart, to the restaurants, to a movie, anywhere, because you're not sure that you're going to be safe. So, which is sort of an oxymoron, because then you want to have people with guns, you know, to protect your family if you're out somewhere. But at the same time, why should you have to?
I agree. It's sad when you have to look over your shoulder when you're at the grocery store, because, you know, just the shooting that just happened at the grocery store, where people were just taking out their groceries, and I know one of the guys that was shot was helping someone else with their groceries, and he was shot in his back. Didn't even see it coming. So, and that's the one where the individual drove to where it was 73% black.
He did that on purpose and did his research. He went there the day before to scope out the area, and, you know, they asked him to leave. So he already knew what he was going to do.
Yeah. It's just really sad.
when, I'm not going to say if, when we can get you in office somewhere,
Well, I'm gonna run again.
sometime.
I'm going to run for Commonwealth Attorney in 4 years.
What can you do at this point? How can we garner enough people behind you that are passionate about getting things done? Because this is getting ridiculous. We can't take anymore. America can't take anymore. I think it's at the boiling point where something catastrophic is going to happen. If it's not going to happen with what we're helping over in Ukraine or with China or
with
somewhere
Putin,
else,
right.
we can't deal with our own home backyard. So how are we helping other people?
Right, I agree. Well, just while I'm out here, I'm trying to educate people about. So the office that I do plan on running for, again, the same office, is Commonwealth Attorney's office. So I'm trying to educate people about what the powers that office has. So that is something that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make people understand the enormous power that office carries, and I think for minorities, the Commonwealth Attorney's office the Commonwealth Attorney can determine whether or not to charge with a crime. Okay. So that's just a powerful decision. There's no one, the judge can't say. And I always use examples where if someone, is charged with grand larceny, even though they did steal a car, and I think the Commonwealth Attorney should have talked to the person that's charged as well as family members, find out what's going on,
right,
to make sure that whatever disposition they choose, that person can still go back to work, go into the community, and be productive. And for something like that, it may be a situation where the charge gets dropped and that charge is not prosecuted. So the Commonwealth Attorney has the power to drop charges. And I'm talking about legitimate, like someone actually committed a crime and they look at all the circumstances and decide not to prosecute. And that power is absolute. So no one can override that power.
Well, if it was grand larceny, help me to understand this then, and it is a crime, why would you not want to prosecute? Because that would not going to deter them from doing it again.
Well, I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a 16-year-old boy who steals their neighbor's car. Okay?
Okay.
Then, let's say as Commonwealth Attorney, I would sit down, and people in the office would sit down with the person whose vehicle was stolen,
okay,
and the family and the person, the 16-year-old, and that person's family. The person whose vehicle was stolen, if there is any damage, let's say they agree that he just pays for the damage to the car, and I don't care about prosecuting. Then you look at the 16-year-old. Let's say that he's in, his mom is in public housing. If he gets a felony, then his mom gets kicked out. Let's say he has 3 and 4-year-old sisters and brothers. They all get kicked out if he gets a felony. So the just thing to do, and Commonwealth Attorneys have a duty not to just convict or prosecute, but to do what's just and fair.
Okay.
So if you have that scenario, you can, in order that this family won't be homeless and the victim of the crime is okay with it, you just drop that charge.
Well, that's interesting.
So that's
something to chew on, to think about.
Yeah, the Commonwealth Attorney has the power to just simply figure out what's going on and figure out what's best for the community, because it's not. And then this 16-year-old has a felony for the rest of his life, and even though it's a juvenile felony, it still affects him when he's adult. When he's an adult, those records are not sealed, and a lot of people don't know that. So that's how a Commonwealth Attorney's office that actually cares would go about figuring out, the different dynamics that are involved in that situation and figure out the best and the just thing to do.
Okay. Well, speaking along those same lines then, let's say because the parent or parents, since Virginia pays you in peanuts down here, it cracks me up. I don't know how people live. I don't know how I'm living. At any rate, parents are working 2 and 3 jobs. So it may be rotation, and they may only be home for an hour or 2. So the kids are there, basically. They may be in gangs or whatever. Isn't it a law now, or haven't they started prosecuting the parents if the children do something?
Well, there's always, I mean, in Virginia, there's a contributing charge where if a kid does something, the parent can be charged with contributing depending on what it is. That's a situation.
Because they're not at home and keeping an eye on
Yeah,
whatever's
it depends. Like if a kid gets a gun, a parent's gun, then that parent can be charged with contributing, something like that. So those are laws that are on the books. That's true. Again, it would be a situation. It just depends on how the Commonwealth Attorney is handling those. Now, if they're just charging all the parents without looking at the facts, I don't think that's a good way to prosecute crimes, because I think facts matter. And I'm not talking about just the facts of the crime. Like, yes, the person committed it, but what's in the best interest of the community in this family, and so those are the types of things that I think are important. So. Yeah, there's laws on the books that can address what parents do as well, or where they lack.
There are a lot of teenagers and young people, for whatever reason, they don't feel their parents understand them, or they're may have step parents involved in there, and it's just confusion in the household and not very stable. It's very toxic, so that they're out. Causing chaos, and there's so many shootings that are in the news every single day. And just right here in this area, in Portsmouth and Norfolk, and they said all the 7 cities have issues, but more so people say they don't want to be in Norfolk or in Portsmouth. There's so many jobs available that people don't want to work now. They'd rather stand out on the corner and get money. I'm just tying too many things together because I'm so angry about a whole lot of things.
Right,
and
I understand.
People are not doing things to help themselves. If you're helping yourself, then other people don't mind helping you.
Right, I agree.
So what can we do as far as these students, because they have too much time on their hands now?
Well, one of the things that happened, I know in Norfolk, is they closed the rec centers.
Why?
So, exactly. They closed it. Well, they said it was COVID, but then they didn't open them up right away, and they fired the workers. So I don't know how they expected to ever to open them back up. But all the rec centers need to be opened so that children have places to go. I know that football and softball teams had been set up and funded, and they were dismantled. So I think the biggest thing is that children just need something to do.
Exactly.
And so
something
the city needs to put resources.
Running the streets or just sitting there playing video games.
Right. The city needs to put more resources into children.
They really do. And parents need to not be afraid of these children, because if they're going to live in your household, then you need to be in charge.
Right. And
I have them telling you and threatening you when they're eating your food and living under your roof. I mean, I'm old school,
right?
So, but a lot of young parents, because they were young when they had these kids, they're afraid of them, which is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And you'll talk to them. Well, that was back in the olden days when you were a child. Things are different now. We do this, we do that. I was like, no, you can still get your behind tore up. Let's call it what it is. Maybe a lot of this wouldn't be happening and occurring.
I agree.
But getting back on all of the different shootings, it's not just against us at this point either, because Asians are being targeted now.
Yes.
It's not just Asians either, because the LGBT, XYZ, elemental P, it's too many alphabet. The gay community, they have always been targeted. And those random acts of violence are ridiculous as well, because it's just, America is a sad state of affairs.
It is.
Going down another road here, the current war with Russia over there, we're allowing those immigrants to come here and cross over. People at the border, for whatever reason, from Ecuador, from Panama, from wherever else they were, that were having same kind of issues in their countries and coming for asylum here, are told no, they cannot get in here. People from Haiti, people of color, where we fell out with them, and they were really one of our allies back in the day. they won't let people from Haiti come over. What is the resources or common sense behind getting our government officials to see the ludicrousy in what they're doing and saying it's such a hypocritical thing going on, and
I agree.
we're not the only ones that see this.
Right.
I mean, people are angry.
Just writing, you know, and I know that this takes time, but writing to your congressperson, knowing who they are, writing them constantly, getting other people to write to them, going up to Washington and speaking, you know, when they have those opportunities for people to speak. But it takes a lot of getting involved that I know a lot of people don't have time to do because people are working 2 and 3 jobs.
No, people are lazy. They don't want to get involved and do that. That's extra work that they have to do when they figure that, you know, the pastors, the prominent pastors, should we say, our government officials, like you said, should be doing this. This is their job to handle this, but it's not being done.
Yep.
Food shortages. Why the heck are we out of baby milk?
Right, and and why can't Congress agree that that's important? You know, that is just, it's ridiculous. It's really
We're
it's really
going
a
to
sad
hell in a
state of
handbasket
affairs.
faster than these really must be end times, because the horrible things that people are doing to each other, the devastation, the food shortages, the fires, the floodings, you know, the mass shootings, it's all culminating, you know, just like Revelation said, and whether you believe in the Bible, you know, or whatever God you pray to, it's really getting ridiculous. And if you don't take care of your own household and clean it up and start seeing things for what they are and trying to make things better, it's going to end sooner than everybody thinks.
Yeah. I mean, it's devastating what's going on right now.
Absolutely.
Definitely looks like the end of days when you read the book of Revelations.
And we're opening the doors because the rest of the world is watching what America, since we're big brother, we're big bully brother, let's put it that way.
Yeah, we are.
They're watching what we do and say. So at some point, someone will say, okay, let me just try and see. And everyone else is going to follow suit, whether it's going to be nuclear, chemical, or whatever else. And we keep coming up with all these vaccines. Now we have the monkeypox. What the heck is a monkeypox?
I don't know, but I did hear today that they have the first case in Richmond. The first case in Virginia is in Richmond.
And
so
we're overwhelmed with too much going on, and we have all the various committees and offices in D.C. to handle their separate things. Why can't they just zone in on their particular thing and get it done? There's no reason why they can't.
Yeah, you know, what's going on in Washington right now is it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm glad Biden is in there.
Yeah.
But it is,
he's
like,
calming,
it's hard to
but
get stuff
he needs
done.
to have a higher fire put behind him to get more things done and
Absolutely.
accomplished. My gosh. What else, just generally in our own communities, can we assure these children as they're going to school? What, you know, I know parents of the little people are standing out there on the corners waiting with the school buses and everything, but getting them to the school bus and then getting in school and making sure they're safe are two different things.
Right.
So what else can the neighborhoods and people do in general?
I mean, just kind of thinking out the box, just, you know, if a community can have 2 or 3 parents that go to the school regularly, like, you know, 2 or 3 parents go 1 week to school, the next set go the next week, so that they're actually observing what's going on in the schools. Parents should be allowed to visit the schools and stay there all day if they want to. So
I agree. They could be instrumental in helping, especially those that are retired or whatever. It would give them something to do.
Right.
And they could be in there and be instrumental in the classrooms or monitoring in the halls to make sure no one that shouldn't be there is in there.
Yeah. So, yeah, just communities, you know, people going to school, get together and, you know, set up shifts and see who's going to go to school on which day and, you know, just jump in and help.
Well, you said the recreation centers have been shut down and everything. So what can be done if the teachers cannot or are not allowed to stay after school for any not night program, but after school programs and activities and things? Is there anything that, well, like you said, well, we both said, people work and people have lives and people are busy and they're still struggling trying to maintain and get things
Right.
done.
Right.
But we're losing a generation behind them.
We are.
We're losing them. And if this isn't taken under consideration and control soon, there's going to be more people in your system.
Yep. It is not my system. I'm trying to uproot that system. But you're right. You're right. And this is, children are our future, you know. I know it sounds like rhetoric, but it's true. And so we need to make sure they're protected, make sure they have the tools and the resources they need to be successful. Do what we can to make sure they're not going to school and getting killed just because they're, you know, just from being in school and learning.
Shouldn't there be some type of educational program in the schools, in all the schools, that are making the children aware of, you know, gun safety and not bringing these things to school? And, you know, that should go right along with bullying and everything else so that these children won't feel that they have to come in and do something like this. Shouldn't there be some type of program set up like this?
I think there should, and I'm sure there are some. I think the best example, though, is just adults leading by example. And when you said bullying, you know, the problem is there are a lot of adults that are bullying.
Yeah.
So how do you tell a kid, don't be a bully, when you look at the television and someone's being a bully?
Yes.
So we need to do better as adults as well.
Well, saying it and doing it are two different variations and things.
Absolutely.
What else are you doing within the system to help people of color when they're being charged with various things so that they're not just automatically put in prison for various crap?
Right. One of the things I can tell you as far as criminal defense, what I've been doing throughout my entire career is just zealously representing my clients, making sure, you know, that the appropriate people are subpoenaed, asking for body camera footage, doing investigation before trial, in an effort to, you know, I'll talk to Commonwealth Attorney, the prosecutors, to try to get rid of a charge before trial or get rid of the charges before trial or reduce them. So those types of things I've always done. I can tell you that what I'm starting to do now is since last year I started doing civil rights where when officers harass people, I want to start filing complaints.
I like that.
So my goal is to, whenever an officer harasses somebody, I'm trying to put a system in place where we are filing a civil complaint within 7 days of that harassment. And on my way over here, someone tagged me on a story about an Uber driver who got pulled over for no reason. Norfolk police pulled out guns, put him on the ground, and this just happened. And then they said, "Oh, we're sorry, you're the wrong person," and then told him to leave. So I'm actually, when I got tagged on that, I called some other attorneys, and I'm going to try to get in touch with this young man and see if we can file a civil suit. And then we start doing that every single time something happens with the police department, and they're going to get sick of getting sued.
You would think,
So that's the
and
goal.
being tied up in the court system, yes, because you don't see anyone else of non-color being treated that callously. You do not. And it's still going on, and it seems, even though it's in the news and we're bringing it to the focal point, it's still going on. It hasn't diminished. It hasn't lessened the amount of times that police officers are still doing these horrendous things to people of color.
Right.
So, like you said, until it is an annoyance to them,
And it's hitting their pockets.
thank you, that something will be done. We've discussed so many various topics here this evening, and
Yes.
Amina is just so open and candid with so many things. There's just so many areas of law that we can discuss this evening, and without really getting emotional and upset, because we're supposed to be non-judgmental, just give the facts, right? But we're people too. I'm hoping that you all have learned something this evening, and you will call on Amina if you need her. You will flood her office with various complaints and things so that she will know that we are concerned and that we want a change, because change is not going to happen unless we all get involved and be
Right.
a part of it. We can't just sit idly back and say, oh, okay, someone else is going to do it, because if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the what? Part of the problem.
Yep.
Absolutely. I mean, is there anything else that you want to share with our listening
Well,
audience?
I will share my contact information. So again, my name is Amina Matheny-Willard. My website is www.aminalaw.com. My email address is amina@aminalaw.com, and my telephone number is 757-777-3441.
Absolutely. And one more time, just in case you didn't have your pencil or paper handy and you didn't have your phone out long enough to get all that, I still don't know how to do that. Put notes in while people are
Yeah, so I'll say it again.
Give them that information
It's
again.
okay. It's Amina Matheny-Willard. My website is www.aminalaw.com. My telephone number is 757-777-3441. My email address is amina@aminalaw.com. And you can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Absolutely. And we know that in the system that public defenders are really overwhelmed, and they may just get your case by the time you're walking in the door, and they have no time to really absorb and understand what's going on, and they'll just go before the judge and say, okay.
They should ask for continuance. That's what they should
You
do.
would think, but they
That's
don't want to
what
move
should
on to the
happen.
next. But this lady right here, this attorney, this extraordinary woman is
Thank
for the
you.
people, and we need to stay behind whatever it is she is involved in to help everyone, not just people of color, but for everyone.
Right.
This has been ESP TV. My name is Karen Bryson, and as always, be a blessing to at least one other person each day. Good night.
Good night. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here again. My gosh. I'll try not to be so angry the next time you come on.
It's okay.
But it's just so many things.